guys? We out here. You're listening to Short and Sweet, a Donut Princess podcast, where we bring on guests that I feel like would bring value to your life, whether that's a new perspective on career, or just how you view the world. And today I have an amazing guest, Amman Jordan. Let's give a round of applause for him. Woo!
Woo! How's it going? Yeah,
Mom, you're joining us from somewhere not in California.
that's right. That's right. I am from Durham, North Carolina. I don't know if y'all ever heard about Durham, North Carolina. Quick up. So Durham is famous not only for being Duke Blue Devils, but I'm not a fan of Duke Blue Devils. But if you're in the college world, you know Duke Blue Devils and Carolina Tar Heels and all that stuff. So that's the neck of the woods I'm from. But also, fun fact, in the 1980s, there was a baseball movie that Kevin Costner played in called Bull Durham. And that it was filmed in my hometown. And actually, some parts of it you can still see, like some of the places where they filmed. Is still there, of course, like the baseball stadium and things like that. Because Durham Bulls is like our minor league team, but we've won a lot of awards and things like that. So that's where I'm from, Durham, North Carolina.
All right, Durham, North Carolina in the building. Thank you so much for joining us today, taking some time out of your day. And we are going to talk about some pretty important topics, but I really want to get into who you are and what you're up to.
Okay, so yeah, like I said, my name is Amman Jordan. Now, the cool thing about my name is it's actually a place. So I am on the map, if you ever wondered. So it is actually a place. So there's a country called Jordan, right?
Yes.
There's a Muslim country called Jordan, and the capital of Jordan is Amman.
Amman.
So that's how you spell my name, Amman Jordan. In fact, it's so much that Facebook doesn't allow me to use my real name.
Oh, wow.
On my Facebook, I had to hyphen it. I had to be like Amman hyphen Joseph and then Jordan. But my real name was Amman Jordan, like the actual place. So that was actually that is really dope. And I thank my parents for that. That was really cool. So it's a capital, and therefore that's why my rapper name is Capnificent. So it's pretty much like paying homage to my name being a capital, and the rhymes that I do are magnificent. So it's a play on those words together, Capnificent.
Love it.
So that's and
it's super catchy too.
It is pretty catchy. I think it was really great. For the longest time, I used to be like, what am I going to be like in my Lil J or Lil whoever,
right?
No diss to any Lil whoever's out there, y'all. Everybody keep being amazing, but then Capnificent just stuck, and I was like, I like that. It was an accident too. I was like, make it magnificent capital, and I was like, that's it. And like I said, I'm from Durham, North Carolina. I've been here pretty much 3 decades of my life. So I'm 31. Residing in North Carolina at the moment, but I do plan on. It's funny you said like you wish I was in the studio in California. I do plan on eventually either moving in California or working there for a little bit and then possibly working elsewhere.
Okay, well, get ready for those California taxes. Let me tell you that.
Oh, it's gonna be a big jump from North Carolina.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, what's the taxes like over there?
I actually don't want to think about that.
Oh yeah, let's not talk about taxes. So, Capnificent. So, Capnificent. When did the person Capnificent come into fruition?
Wow, that I could say it. Capnificent really was there all my life, and I didn't realize him until probably after high school.
Okay.
So, pretty much I can say that I feel like every artist where they are now is just a compilation of where they've been and in a little foretell signing of where they're going, So that's pretty much in me, man. That's just like I started rapping when I was 13.
Okay.
and it was for a school project. I was doing a Black History project, and I made a song about Satchel Paige. He was a minor. It was a I want to say the now I can't say the other N word, but he was in that league of baseball players because the baseball was segregated
Yes.
before like Jackie Robinson joined. So Satchel Paige was a legendary player. And so I made a rap about him in sixth grade. And the teacher loved it so much. She was like, "Hey, why don't you rap it for my other classes?" So I said, "Okay, sure." And so they literally pulled me out of like, I was in science class, and language arts teacher was like, "Hey, Amon, why don't you come over and do your song now?" So like every class that they had, I would do my song, and everybody liked it. And they got rowdy because like I didn't have any instrumentals, so I had somebody to beat on the desk, like back in the like
Yeah.
whoosh.
Beatboxing. Yeah. You're using
Yeah.
any kind of sounds on the desk or
Yes,
even
it
on the
was.
walls.
It was crowd involvement for sure.
I mean, that's
On
what
that
music
one.
is, though. It involves the crowd
Yeah.
too. It's that energy that you bring out to the crowd. So that's cool. So you actually had a little bit of that spark in sixth grade, had a little bit of the limelight, being the sixth
Mhm.
grade rapper. Okay. And then after
But
high school.
it didn't stop there. So even before middle school, it was in elementary school. Most kids were like, I want to be a dragon when I grow up, or
Hmm.
I want to be a baker or whatever. The dragon part was just the first thing. How you ask a kindergarten. So what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a princess, or I want to be a tiger. It's like, oh, okay, cool, good luck with that.
I know, right?
Me, I said I want to be a curator. My first grade teacher was like, wow, curator, cool. Like, it's like the fact that I knew what that word was, but it came from we went to a field trip to a
Hmm.
science museum in my city, Museum of Life and Science, and they had so many interesting things, and it was like the curator is the one who collects all this stuff, and I was like, oh wow, I'd be so cool if I could travel around the world and collect things and put it in a place where people can
Hmm.
see us. So that was my first thing I wanted to be. But afterwards, as I got distracted with the makeup of the building itself, like it'd
Hmm.
be so cool if I could design a museum, but I also want to design a house, but I also want to design this and that, right? So that was in second grade. My first grade teacher, she was like, he says he want to be a curator, but I think I see him more as an architect.
Hmm.
And my mom and dad were like, yeah, we could see that too, because even further back, like in preschool, I was homeschooled in preschool, by the way, because my mom used to do a daycare, and so I was homeschooled in preschool as well. So while all the other kids would be playing with other things, I had the Lego set, and
Hmm.
that was me. Like, you're not going to touch me and my Legos. I'm here with my Legos. Of course, if mom says put it up, then okay, put it up. But they were like, I would do like these really intricate, like, buildings and things like that and bridges and stuff. And they were like, that
Hmm.
was so cool, especially for my age, like 2 or 3 years old, but playing with Legos and stuff like that. So that was neat. So I was wanted to be an architect from second grade on up. And my career hadn't changed. Even like in middle school, they asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, I want to be an architect. So, okay, cool. So, you know, all that happened. And then high school happened.
Hmm.
You know what happened in high school?
What happened?
I got homeschooled. Yeah, yeah. So I ended up being homeschooled in high school. So how that happened was because, see, back in the early 2000s, I want to say like 2000, early to mid 2000s, whatever. Durham, North Carolina was not. It's still not safe sometimes, but it's not as crazy as it was
Yeah.
back in the early 2000s, right? So back in the early 2000s, I mean, I had even middle school kids that were joining gangs even back then, like
Yeah.
13, 14 years old. A lot of them, some of them moved from like Vallejo, California, and other places, or
Hmm.
New York and things like that, and they would come down to North Carolina. That's where a lot of the families transplanted from. So you look at the demographics of like North Carolina, you'll see a lot of people from California or New York or things like that. And a lot of times, sometimes they brought the gang culture with them.
Yeah.
And you had a lot of like Crips, Bloods, Norteños, Sureños, and things like that. And
Right.
a little stint of MS-13 a little bit in Charlotte area and just stuff like that. But in the mid, in the early and mid 2000s, Durham, North Carolina was, I think it was number 8 in the nation of like high crime cities.
Hmm.
So especially for a small town, that's kind of big news, right?
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a
Um,
lot of crime happening right there with it, all the
yeah,
transplants moving in. And would you say that was a big factor of why you were homeschooled?
yeah, probably so, definitely. Plus the public school system during that time wasn't, they weren't, it was like all they were concerned with was like get everybody getting their EOGs or like, end of grade tests and stuff like that, and just testing kids. And there's pretty much a lot of rote learning, but not as much time put into certain kids of like wanting them to fulfill their dreams and stuff like that. So my parents say, you know what, I just feel better off just homeschooling y'all, and I'm gonna instill that in y'all, right? So
You
that's what
probably
it
learned
was.
more. You probably learned more anyways. There's less distractions.
It was
Yeah.
less distractions, like literally, and they did a block schedule, so they broke it up into like 90-minute sessions for
Hmm.
classes and stuff. They try to do that, and you would spend the first 45 minutes of class trying to calm the class down because a few of the kids would get rowdy in there and a fight might break out. And then, of course, in the halls, kids would get jumped because it was claimed that somebody was blood or somebody was crip when it may have
Hmm.
been or may not been the case. One kid in 8th grade, on the first weeks of school in 8th grade, he came back on crutches because he actually got shot in the foot over the summer because that was his initiation to get into the
Oh my
Crips.
God.
Yeah. So
It's
I had
wild.
a
It's
that's
wild.
a lot, and yeah, that's a lot to think about, like in the middle school ages and stuff. So I never was in the gang life, and actually didn't grow up in the hood. I actually grew up in the suburbs,
Hmm.
but like my mom, she grew up in like a city called Lumberton, North Carolina, uh, which side of Lumberton that she grew up in was that like even on Fourth of July, that the typical story of Fourth of July in the hood is like, yeah, don't at certain times of night, just make sure you don't be looking out there because that's not fireworks going off. That's also guns and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's rough.
the guy who killed Michael Jordan's dad actually was from Lumberton, North Carolina. So it's kind of like
Dang.
that area. So yeah, it's like a small town off of I-95. Most people skip. They like get going down I-95. It's like, oh, skip Lumberton. Not that far from Fayetteville, which
Yeah.
is the hometown of one of my other favorite rappers, J. Cole. But
There you go.
anyway, I have no connections with J. Cole. I just want to drop that.
Well, you guys are kind of from around the same, like state.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
from the same state. There's so many other artists like the baby. He's from Charlotte. um, Moray. He's from Fayetteville too, and then there's like a bunch of other. Uh, Fun fact: there's a Asian artist, a Japanese Asian artist. His name G Yamazawa. He's actually from my city, from Durham. So
Amazing.
he could probably, yeah, if you ever interviewed him, he probably could tell you about Durham, what it was
Yeah.
like too. He could probably relate. Like, yeah, it was rough back in the 2000s, actually in the 90s and 2000. They actually, for one time, they said Durham was like North Carolina's version of Detroit because of
Mm.
basically what it was like. The Liggett and Myers, Durham is also called the Bull City, or
Hmm.
not because of the animals, but because of the tobacco we used to produce. And it was like such strong smoke. Like it was like that smoke that we produced was so strong, like a bull had that type of flavor. So that's why it's also city of medicine because Duke University, they used the tobacco to make medicine and things like that. So Uh, Durham was known as the Bull City or the City of Medicine, and they used to have like tobacco factories in downtown. It was thriving for a little bit, and then once those factories shut down and they boarded up everything, it created what they call the donut effect.
Hmm.
So basically, like you have a dead downtown center area, and then all the life and stuff is thriving
Around it.
around the downtown. The donut effect,
The
not in
donut
your case.
effect.
Donuts are good, but not all the time. In this
Yeah.
case, it's not.
Not the donut
It's,
effect.
no, not the donut effect. So that's pretty much what Durham was like. And I remember like seeing it during revitalization, but also seeing before, like, certain times you just did not go into downtown afterwards because it was pretty much like a ghost town. And if you were in downtown after a certain time, that usually meant you were up to no good or you were about to handle some business there.
We had a little bit of that experience in our Chinatown here in LA. My
Mm-hmm.
mom, she goes to get her groceries over there, and she would tell me that after 6 p.m., like she would not go there. And
Mm-hmm.
because there'd be a lot of gang violence, there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
like things that you don't want to be at the wrong place at the wrong time,
Right,
And
right.
I feel like that has we've slowly, as Chinatown's gotten more gentrified, it's gotten a little bit safer, and that doesn't exist anymore where you can actually, stay out there. And actually there's like quite a few like new bars and food places
Yeah.
out there like now that's it's a little bit safer now. Would you say that it's a little bit safer nowadays to go
Oh yeah,
out?
yeah.
Okay,
No,
okay.
it's actually funny because we sometimes those that are from Durham we joke about it like it's like, oh, you're going down Holloway Street now. You look at Holloway Street now and it's like, wow, okay,
It's different.
it's
It's
nice.
gentrified.
Some parts are still like, no, that gas station over there, nope, nope.
Yeah.
Especially the gas station. That's why I was like, yeah, don't go to the gas station, bro.
I feel like we are, I don't know if our parents feel the same way, but just like existing for at least 30 years. I'm 32, and like just seeing
Okay.
how certain areas are like just so much better than they used to be. And
Mm,
like it's pretty cool to be live through that, of knowing like, hey, that place was not so great back in the 90s, but now it's
wow.
really, we're really moving and changing, and having it be a little bit safer to be out for longer.
Yeah, let's just pause for a minute. Now to say like, yeah, that was the 90s. In fact, sometimes somebody had a meme up there like, it used to be like you'd be like, yeah, 30 years ago. And it's like, wait, 30 years ago I was a kid.
Hmm.
It's like reflecting like, yo, I'm one of the old people. But I always say, nah, old is a mindset. I don't throw the crutches on me yet, bro. Old is a mindset. I'm gonna
Right.
be young forever. Black on
Yeah.
crack, amazing, you know what I'm saying? So,
I think it's all about how you look at yourself. If you say, I'm
exactly.
old, I'm old, I'm old, then you're
Yeah.
going to have things that hurt and like things that are out, out of order. But if you're like, I'm young, like I'm like going to be active and keep going. I
Hmm.
talk to my mom
Hmm.
about that all the time. I'm like, Mom, you need to know that, like, she keeps saying, I'm old, I'm expired. That's what she'll say. I'm like, Mom.
Yeah.
And then when I tell other people her age, they're like, she's still a young person. Like, why was she
Right,
saying
right,
that?
right,
That,
right.
but age ain't nothing but a number, and I'm
Right.
sure within your 30 years of 31 years of living, you've been able to accomplish some things as well. You're, from what it sounds like, you've been always like already a bright kid, homeschooled, like always kind of clear already on his vision. Like you already like knew you wanted those Legos and gravitated towards that. Now I'm curious to know, and this is something that I have really kind of explored on my journey as well, as you go through middle school, you go through high school, and like I feel like in elementary, middle school, you already have picked something that you like really like, or like you gravitate
Mhm.
towards. But depending on
Yeah.
how you were brought up, they it might not be the environment that is encouraging that. Or at that time, it might not be something that your parents go, yeah, 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 go for it. Like, I really want you to do that. Instead, you have an environment that might say, oh, actually, Maylee, like, you shouldn't be a social worker. Like, you should go into like business instead, which is kind of what my dad told me, right? He's like, he wanted me to go for jobs that made money and not be stuck at a job that like wasn't really like supporting my lifestyle decisions. Was that the same case with you?
Nah, it actually wasn't. Actually, my parents were like, "Oh yeah, architecture would be pretty cool." They just wanted to try to find the means for that. Now,
Mhm.
music wise, nah. Basically, because they don't like the style of music. Not that I'm not a good artist, nothing like that. It's just with hip hop and things like that, it's kind of the connotation of gangster rap. And it's something we're going to talk about, like um, the experiences of a few things not defining the whole, right?
Yeah.
So all of rap music is not gangster, right? It's not.
No,
There's lyrical rap. I actually prefer the lyrical rap and the
it's
things like
poetic. It's
yeah,
poetic.
poetry even more so, man.
Yeah.
I'm all for that. And people that usually when they talk about the gangster stuff, they're talking about their life experiences and hopefully nobody repeats it. But sometimes that gets lost in the freight of a really hot beat. And so
Hmm.
it just goes out the window and all they heard was skirt, pop, pop. Oh yeah, I like that. It was like they just don't, they ignore all the other stuff. So um they were like, nah, you're not gonna be a rapper. And I was like, cool.
It's not even also like rapping, but it's like the things associated with rappers and
Yeah,
rapping
yeah,
and
yeah.
how it's
That's what it is.
portrayed in
Yeah.
music videos or in the news. And
Mhm.
I think our parents are always coming from a place of protection and like trying to like be like, no, like I don't know about this, like maybe you shouldn't, but based on what they know from what their friends tell them or what they see in the
Mhm.
media. But continue on.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's pretty much goes on to what I'm up to now, right? So
Right.
currently, so I've gotten my associate's degree in drafting and design technology, and
Amazing.
I was valedictorian in 2014 is when I graduated. But the school I went to, of course, they shut down because rightfully they should have shut down the way they were scamming people.
Okay.
But my degree still counts. So don't come
Yes.
up for there are
Don't
people
come
out there
after
that's
your
like,
degree now.
my degree
That
still counts.
degree is
So
valid.
it is very valid. And I think everybody probably knows what school I'm talking about, and I'll leave them nameless. But it happened nationwide. They had to shut down campuses because of the fraudulent stuff they were doing. But anyway, and so at that juncture, I was like, shortly after I graduated, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm graduated. I have this degree, but what am I going to do with it? So I literally, the next uh, few weeks, I went and knocked on doors of architecture firms around
Mhm.
town and presented myself. And finally, there was one that they looked and they said, "Oh yeah, sure, we'll hire you." So it was on the 90-day trial period,
Mhm.
but I had worked so good with them that here we are 7 years later. I'm still with the same firm. So that's
Wow. You
yeah,
are a
that's
loyal man.
it's great. I liked it, and it was and at the same time, the thing I love about architecture, and I feel how it flows so much with every form of art, is that there's always some form of evolving. There's always iterations, right, or
Hmm.
concepts that's being developed, and you never get tired. I mean, you do get tired, physically tired. It gets draining sometimes, but that's why I say you should choose a career that even when you're at your worst days, you're still like, but I love this job or I love this career. Not something like I couldn't see myself being an engineer or being an accountant or things like that. Cause there's even on your happy days that you didn't want to be there. It's like, I'm just here for the money. But
Hmm.
there's going to be those days you feel so depressed. It's like, I don't even want to be here, do anything like this. Why am I here? You know what I'm saying? So I think that probably goes like with what you do as far as like with the donut princess and things like that. It's probably days you're like, if I didn't love this job, I wouldn't be here, right?
I mean, I feel like for me, it's always been around since I was born. So my parents,
Hmm.
they had a bakery for 40 years. We actually just sold the bakery. But
Hmm.
there were definitely times that I worked, I was working there since I was 6 years old. So,
Right.
there's times where, you're waking up super early. Other people don't have to. Your friends are going out. They're staying out late. You can't stay out late, or you just have to
Mhm.
suffer the next day and not really have
Yeah,
enough
yeah.
sleep. There are times where it does get hard being a business owner, having employees that don't show up, having unhappy customers. I mean, there's so many different things that come about with entrepreneurship and business. And
Mhm.
yeah, you're right. Like even though those moments had occurred, I thought to myself, this is like for my family. I need to do this for my legacy. And that actually
Mhm.
gave me that inner fuel, that inner fire to come back and be
Right.
like, all right, like let's do this and really take responsibility and like kind of steer the ship in the way that it should go, which was into the 20th century. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was amazed. I actually was really amazed by your podcast. I think you know what? I think I saw your account in 2020 or
Mm,
maybe in 2021,
mhm.
but I just was like, okay, cool. Somebody who I'll probably never meet, but cool. It's really cool what they did, with the whole Donut King. I think I never
Mm-hmm.
saw the documentary yet, but I made it on my bucket list to look at the
Yeah,
Donut King
definitely check it
documentary.
out.
I shall, because I didn't know the Cambodians were into donuts like that. That's
Oh
pretty
my God.
cool.
There's Cambodians are, I think that once you watch the documentary, you'll understand that my
Yeah.
uncle basically paved the way for all the Cambodian donut shops that are in SoCal and
Hmm.
also some that are in, other highly concentrated areas where Cambodians lived and worked,
Yeah,
especially when they came over here.
that's awesome. Man. I didn't even realize, but like even in my neck of the woods in North Carolina, they had a recent study. They like the top 50 nationalities that come
Mhm.
to North Carolina, immigrate to North Carolina, and number 50 was Cambodians. And so they said they mostly concentrated in like the Greensboro, Charlotte area.
Mhm.
And I could see Charlotte for sure because Charlotte is like our big city.
Yeah.
We have like the Charlotte Bob. Well, no, there's the Charlotte Hornets. Thank
Mhm.
you. I was like, shouldn't Bobcats? Really? NBA mascot, the Bobcats?
The Hornets are
Wow.
they're way more aggressive and
Right.
way more
A Bobcat
scary
is like,
than
here,
Bobcats.
buddy, here, kitty, just here, kitty. Wow. It's like, no, man, nobody want to be no Bobcats. But and of course, Carolina Panthers. But surprisingly, I'm actually a New Orleans Saints fan because my dad's from Louisiana, and so I kind of attracted to some of the stuff that he likes in Louisiana. So I'm actually a New Orleans Saints fan. But I'll give if Carolina Panthers are doing good, then I'm like, yeah, go Panthers, yay! But yeah, that's Charlotte for you. Charlotte is really a cool city though. Actually, it's pretty nice.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick short break. And when we get back, we're going to be talking more about how mom found some research in his identity and also what message he would like to send out for the world. So, catch you guys after the break. Hey guys, welcome back after the break. Thank you again so much for listening and watching. If you guys are tuning in right now, you would have heard, the basics about a mom, where he's from, where he's lived and where he grew up. And now we're going to get to the super juicy part
Yeah,
where, we talk about his journey in music and also his identity and some of the research he's been doing
right.
that really uh, it aligns with Asian Americans and also the message of unity. I feel that one of the things that I'm really standing for is the sense of belonging. And when we
Mhm.
say that in a world where, especially in America, where it's literally a melting pot, you're going to come across a lot of different ethnicities, a lot of stereotypes, a lot of things that uh, we as a new generation don't have to choose a traditional standpoint anymore. So I'll let a mom take it from here.
Awesome. All right, I like that. So, talk about identity. It's funny because this year I actually did 23andMe, a little test tube thing, whatever, saliva spit kit thing. And so I found out that I had like, of course, I was like, I'm probably going to have some sub-Saharan African genetics and stuff, whatever. So I had like Nigerian and of course European stuff, but I also looked and it was like a small percentage of it said that some of my ancestors originated from the Philippines. I
Oh,
was like, what?
you're like,
So
I'm an
yeah,
island boy.
right, right. I'm an island. No, not island. But yeah, so a little bit from the Philippines and stuff like that, and Native American. I was like, that's pretty cool. I could see that. Maybe, I don't know. But that's neither here or there. The fact is like I'm here, and I feel like the mindset of unity is what we want to get into definitely. And when we talk about identity, it's understanding accepting people differences and understanding the uniqueness and the unique qualities of everyone's differences, right? Imagine if everybody was looked exactly the same, like the world would be a boring place, honestly.
Yeah.
There's no variety, there's no diversity. It would just be boring. But the diversity and the uniqueness is what adds to the excitement of living, I think. If that's a way of putting it, I feel like
Yeah.
that diversity adds to the excitement of seeing a new day and like, meeting new people and new experiences and things like that. So for me, how I got involved in the Stop Asian Hate movement, because I think that's what it goes and we're talking about here. Um, it actually started in 2021. So I mentioned before where I said that I was in school. I finished graduating from with my associate's degree, and I'm still working on my bachelor's right now. But I had to take a break from school just for various reasons. Good reasons though, money reasons probably, money reasons. But I was going to a school in San Francisco online. I didn't go to physically. I've yet to go to California yet, but I look forward to it. But I was going to an online school for architecture in San Francisco, and I would do some of my assignments and stuff, and I put my pictures up there, and I would put hashtag San Francisco. And one day I was like, you know what? I want to see what this hashtag is about. You know what I'm saying? That, sometimes you put your hashtags up on your pictures and it's like, I want to see what this hashtag is doing. You know what I mean? What are some of the other posts going on in this hashtag? So I saw some nice things about San Francisco. And then I saw one, it said, most recent in a string of anti-Asian hatred. And I was like, weird. Okay. And it kind of I kind of flashed back to even a year before in 2020, there was an FBI report that said, um, due to the on uprising threat of COVID-19, the FBI is warning of future attacks against Asian Americans. And when I first read the article, I was like, that's dumb. Like, why? I was like, why would anybody want to go attack somebody because of their ethnicity and think that they might carry disease? A, if you think somebody carries a contagious disease, why would you go and physically attack them anyway? Like that doesn't even make sense, right?
Right.
Like
Like as a
if
human
I know
being,
which,
like, why? Why
like
would
if
you
I
do
know
that?
if there was say there's a zombie virus and I know that if I touch this person, I'm going to turn to a zombie too. Why would I, in my right mind, go and attack them because you carried the zombie virus? And it's like, yeah, but if you punch me, you're going to turn into one too. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like,
Right.
so to assume that because somebody's a certain ethnicity that they carry some disease, I was like, okay. At first, I was like, bro, this seems like them instigating stuff. There's no way that they would actually do this, right? So it was a doubt, and that was like in April of 2020, and I was like, whatever. I ignored it. And then, of course, with the rest of 2020, Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, and all that stuff like that.
Mhm.
And even my city of Durham, we had riots happen in downtown, and they had to, um, block up the windows and stuff like that
Yeah.
because of the different things that happened with the George Floyd protests, and it impacted so many people in my city. And so yeah, we even little old Durham, North Carolina, we had some of the riots happen here too.
Yeah.
So that's all going 2020, right?
Right.
And I still hadn't even thought about that article. And so I was working on music during then and also working on architecture. And, I was like, okay, and I'm sorry if let me backtrack even before all
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Let me backtrack even before all that, because I think what really set me on to where I was now is back in 2017, on my way going to work one morning. I hugged my dad, told him, yeah, I was like, I'll see you when I get home this afternoon. He said, okay. And I did see him, but not the way I wanted to see him, because he passed away that morning while I was at work.
Sorry.
And I got the call, and my mom, she let me know. That was a turning point in my life then, because I knew how fragile life was,
Yeah.
how life could be. I lost a brother back in 2013, um, tragically. And he was my biological cousin, but raised up as brothers.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't new to bereavement, but it hit differently when your parent passes away in your home, stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I
And
totally,
you just realize like when there's moments of tragedy and there's moments where you lose somebody where you think your whole life that they're going to be there when you come home, you think it's
yeah,
another normal day, but in reality life is so short, life is precious, and anything can happen at any point. And I'm sure that helps you kind of redirect a little bit of your energy.
yeah,
uh Tell us a bit about that.
yeah. So that that was in April of 2017, and then we had his funeral and stuff in May of 2017 and stuff. And then that year was really depressing, sort of. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to beat this depression by doing music. So
Mm-hmm.
I went hard in the studio, even got signed to a record label
Mm-hmm.
for a stint, short stint. But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the way they were handling things. And I felt like they were cheating me. So just as quickly I signed to them, I quickly dropped them in
Yeah.
2018. So 2018, I wasn't doing music. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to strictly do architecture,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just focus on my architectural work. But one thing about the creative spirit is that when you try to limit it and say, I'm only going to just do one of my giftings, it
Yeah.
actually can be a hindrance to you.
Yeah.
And so my architecture stuff wasn't even kicking off. I was like, even at work, sometimes they were like, come on, your drawings are just not, there's something off here. It's not, whatever. And I figured what it was. I was like, I'm not going to do anything with music. I'm just going to focus on architecture and still staying fit and things like that. But
Yeah.
the music was the missing component. The poetry, every day writing a poetry or something. So all that was missing. And then finally in 2019, I said, you know what? I'm picking back the music up. So I picked back up the music, and that's when I dropped my album Free, which is still free. It's on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
But it was called Free. And what I loved about that one was that, like, it was a picture of like clouds, and I was sitting on top of a hot air balloon, like on top of the balloon, not inside the basket of the hot air balloon, but on
Okay.
top of the balloon, of the hot air balloon, and just looking off at the clouds, and just like, it's called Free, just got me for free. And it was just like the total mindset of like drifting away into freedom, free of thought, free of limits and things like that. So anytime I see a hot air balloon, I always think of like leisurely traveling, freedom to travel wherever you want, of course,
Yeah.
right? So that was 2019. And we get into late 2019, news search stories started surfacing about this strange virus in in China that's attacking a lot of the people there. And it was so vague. I was like, what does that have to do with me here? And I was like, I feel sorry for them, but I'm like, that's not going to impact me. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. And I just scroll along, just move on. And like, even then in 2020, started hearing more stories about it. And I was like, yo, this is weird. And they were like, they big cities are going to start shutting down their businesses and mass
Yeah.
transportation.
Hmm.
I'm like, yo, is it really? Is this going to happen? You mean to tell me we're going to have a zombie apocalypse going on right as we get into the new decade? Because 2020, like, remember that was like also a new decade, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, you mean this how we gonna start a new decade? An
Yep. That's how we're
apocalypse?
going to start it off.
An
That's exactly what we
apocalypse.
did.
Right. And so then it happened. I remember one day the office that got together said, okay, everybody, we're gonna have to shut down the office a little bit. And I was like, well, I know for sure I cannot work from home. It's just I was like, just the technology and stuff. I need to be in the office. So I said, okay, we'll do a block schedule. So we have few people in the office. So I still got to
Yeah,
work in
that's
the office.
good. Little
I
hybrid
was,
situation. You
yeah,
still
yeah.
got your office fix. I like that. I like that they were able
Yes,
to, you know, like accommodate you for that.
yeah, yeah, that was good. It's really helpful, especially if you're working in a small architecture firm. So I was there to answer phones and stuff like that. Excuse me. So that was 2020, and of course, like I said, then we're back to the whole riots and all that stuff in 2020
Yep.
going on. And mind you, I didn't even realize it was during that time that the They Can't Burn Us All movement was going on too, because of the lady, the 89-year-old Asian grandmother in Brooklyn who got set on fire by some racist people, and just all that stuff going on. And I even in the back of my mind, I was like, I know that other minorities go through things too, and I was like, I know that 2020 is the spotlight's been on the Black experience in America. But even then, I was like, I wonder about other people's experiences.
Yeah.
How does this impact other people's experiences? Because there was an Asian officer involved in it, and I was like,
Right.
how are they going to be portrayed? Because I already knew some of the stereotypes, like, oh, Asian people don't like Black people. Um, they always follow us in the stores. You know the typical
I mean, yeah, I can
stereotypes. But
definitely my mom, she owned some like store, we had donut shops. We also had Chinese food restaurants. We had 99-cent
mm,
stores. So my mom firsthand too, she was held up at gunpoint. And I grew up with these stereotypes of like, but Black people are dangerous. Like, be careful of
mhm,
them. And like, for me to navigate that through that too, with the whole Black Lives Matter movement and really enlightening
yeah,
and like
I
teaching
want
my
to.
mom too. Like there were all the, like, I feel like the Black Lives Matter movement, the pandemic, it opened up just so much conversation about what it means to be Black, what it means to be Asian, our relationships with each other as cultures, and how we have now a choice to redefine that.
And I wanted to ask that. You're the one asking the questions, but now I'm gonna ask you the question. Like,
Okay.
what was the Black Lives Matter experience for, like, and you don't have to be specific, but like in your home or just around your friends or whatever that are not Black, and but yet they kind of could see how this could impact them.
I think for me, it was a whole re educating myself. And, when you're a little girl, you listen to your parents. And that's, you think whatever they believe, you believe, right? And then you go to school, but they don't really teach you kind of like, they teach you about segregation, but they don't teach you about all the other things that happen in society and the systems that has Black people be in the position that they're in. And I really think that I took that time, away from work and, at home, re-educating myself, and then
Mhm.
in turn to re-educate my mom and to really, like she has like 50 plus years of like her believing all of this now.
Yeah.
And where she's from, there are no Black people where she grew up from, right? So like
Mhm.
even her coming to America and then her experiencing some actions that were against her from Black people. And,
Yeah.
but then I always remind her, I was like, well, what about, our good friends that come visit us at the bakery who bring you flowers on your birthday, and we see their families grow up with us. Like, not all Black people are criminals or people who are out to get against you. Like, we cannot judge a person by the color of their skin. Like that was so back in the day, like that was so like ignorant, like let's like re-educate ourselves and have a little bit more compassion for what these people had to go through and continuously do based on just what they look like. So for me, the Black Lives Matter movement, I went to a few protests myself, and my mom would make fun of me. She's like, "Oh, you're on their side." I was like, "We're on the same side." I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
I was like,
yeah, yeah,
"What makes
yeah.
you think that?" I was like, "Black people have been fighting for Asian rights for years. They paved the way so that we could somehow fall into this model minority but still benefit from it, but we still have our Black brothers and sisters who are still being judged on
Mm.
all of this." And I even have like an episode on my podcast where I just talk by myself about it. And I just like,
Yeah.
I what I did was I set up some like being able to like donate to some local organizations and charities to support
Yeah.
them with through my business, and just like sharing like where the protests are, and just being kind of like that, try to learn what allyship is like during that time too.
Wow,
So
that's really great. And so so these experiences, then they bring me to, in return, you were doing that. And even then, so we get to the end of 2020 thinking, all right, bro, okay, there's only so much of apocalyptic type esque feeling stuff I can handle. I'm like, we need to get back to normal, whatever, right? So
mhm.
2021 is like, what's your New Year's resolution? I can take this mask off and I can just live life.
Yeah. And give
Yeah,
people hugs. Like I really
right.
miss when like
Yeah.
people come up and like give you a kiss on the cheek or like a big, big hug, like
Yeah.
or shake
Yeah.
your hand. Like these moments of connection are the
Mm.
definitely the things that I miss the most with the pandemic happening. And I just
And I
like I
take it for
still
granted.
yeah, we take it for granted. Like
Yeah.
human
Yeah.
affection, human connection. These are things
Mm.
that make us human and really like bring us together. And this pandemic really like separated all of us and had us like I think
Yeah.
it really just changed the way that we all think about life and society.
That's so true. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. So that was 2021, right? So it rolls around. And again, this is where now I did all that backdrop to bring you to me scrolling through my Instagram, looking at the hashtag San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm scrolling through, the story that caught my attention was the story with Mr. Teacher Rampanatakti, with the incident where the African American male pushed Mr. Rampanatakti down and killed him. He's 84-year-old Thai grandfather. And I was like, yo, that was wild. I was like, that's crazy. And I'm like, this can't be a normal thing. And in the comment section, of course, you can imagine it was full of like, Black people are a curse to society, cancer to society, blah, blah, blah. Anything you could imagine that was anti-Black. And I was like, man, this don't tell me this is the norm of like how what goes on in Asians out there in California, because I'm like, in North Carolina, we don't have that. We had one incident that happened in my city, and I'll get to that in a minute. But then I was like, so then I started looking up like Black and Asian unity. That I
Mm-hmm.
looked for that Instagram, and I came across with the organization that I'm now a part of called Black and Asian Souls Unite, founded by a lady named Autumn Tillman, and she's based out of San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was amazing to see that. And so, but I would see there were posts where they had Asian people that were marching in the Black Lives Matter movements and stuff, just like what you said that you were part of. So I was like, okay, so then that's when I started looking at the history of like various um, people, Asians that were part of the civil rights movement, and to break that myth that, the civil rights movement was just for Black people.
Right.
Not the
It's
case. It
not.
even the Civil Rights Act also helped propel the Immigration Act,
Yes.
which also shut down the Chinese Exclusion Act and
Mm-hmm.
those other various acts of history that excluded Asians and other people from other countries from being a part of American society. So the Civil Rights Act of course, to some it viewed as being communist because it was going against the norm of society. But I was like, that's a good going against the norm of society because we shouldn't be normalizing racism, things like that. So when I see different people wanting to promote racism, that's like wanting to normalize this type of behavior that should not be the norm. We should not accept this normal behavior of, well, Black people attack Asians and I'm not going to speak up about it because then it'll make me look bad. It's like, no, we should talk about that and denounce that. And when anybody attacks anybody, you know what I'm saying? So,
And
and
also to add on to that, I feel like racism kind of begins at the home. It
yeah,
begins with the conversations you're having at home. Then it goes to what the conversations you're having at school.
mhm,
And it really just comes from like this educating yourself on like what actually happened in history
yeah,
and what decisions you're going to make and stand up for when a fellow human being is being treated poorly or being racist against.
yeah, absolutely. That very good points, which we'll get to the five golden nuggets soon.
Yes.
Soon. But
Yes.
I had some things you touched on. I was like, dog, she read my notes.
No, I think we're just on the same vibration and kind of just see
Yeah,
the same goal. And I think
yeah.
that it's been a long time coming because, I was listening to your episode with Ken and
Mm,
I think he's Cantonese and in his language, Black people is like Black devil. And then also
mhm,
in my native language of Chu Chao, it's like, it's not like Black person, it's like Black ghost. So like the way
yeah,
that it translates. So it's like,
mhm,
again, it's something that happens at home. It originates at home, even through the language. And it's up to us as this new generation to really do your due diligence and your research and to look. But then you also have the media, right? You have Trump calling
mhm,
the pandemic the Chinese virus. Like
mhm.
that actually spurred other hate crimes associated even with my business. There were some people who came up was like, you brought the Chinese virus, you guys are all Chinese in there and spit at our store. And like also I remember taking an order from this lady and she's like, have you or your staff been to Wuhan lately? I'm really scared of the virus. And in my head, I'm like, first of
Wow.
all, we don't even really have any Chinese workers. My workers are Cambodian and Hispanic and white and all sorts of races. So that's just something that like I don't really believe that it's just something that we have to deal with of like trying to like recognize like that we are always going to be up against what our parents taught us or what our schools taught us or what they didn't teach us. But we have to take responsibility in going forth and moving in the direction to find unity across all nations and everything like that. And
Absolutely.
we're going to take a quick short break. When we get back, we're going to talk more about Imam's hope for the world through music. And he's going to share 5 golden nuggets about allyship and how anyone can get involved. And I specifically wanted him to share this type of information because it goes to show that you don't have to be Asian, you don't have to be Black, you don't have to be that specific race to learn about other people's cultures, to take responsibility for your own actions, and also to promote this diversity that is our world. So stay tuned, guys. All right, guys, we're back from the break, and Imam's going to continue telling us what he hopes for the world through his music. In the past, we talked about his research on the topic, and what his hope for and messages through his music, and then he's going to share his 5 golden nuggets about allyship and how anyone can get involved.
Awesome. So it's just amazing how fast an hour has almost gone by. That's it. And I know how that is 'cause that tends to happen even whenever I do my podcast and stuff.
Mhm.
It goes, an hour goes by just like that. It's like, wow, that's crazy. But anyway, so long story short, um, then I saw all the stuff that was going on. I did a video and I said, hey, folks, we really should pay attention to what's going on against the Asian community. And then from there, I organized a rally in my city
Dope.
I called it the AAPI and Allies Rally. And what the cool thing about this was, so there's Duke University in my city, but there's also North Carolina Central University, which is a historically Black college university. So what I wanted to do was to get the two universities to come together, students there, and to kind of show like community support as well as like understanding each other's cultures, and to put down the myth that, Black people don't support Asians and things like that. And as
Hmm.
also because there were a lot of young people. So it's like this is a good example for the future generation.
Hmm.
Of course, due to the different restrictions we had for pandemic stuff, it wasn't a huge crowd, but it was a good enough crowd where people saw that, you know, we stood with the AAPI community. And it was an honor for an incident that happened in my city where a Chinese American restaurant owner, he got killed in his driveway from being robbed by five African American males, and that was back in 2018. But I was like, you know what, I want to do something about it. So any donations that were taken at the rally went to his GoFundMe.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome
that's
that
what
you
we
did
did.
that. That's a way to go for
And then
standing up for members of your community, like that is like that's some real
Mhm.
noble stuff that it's not that hard. It just takes somebody with that vision.
Yeah.
For good on you for that.
And so even from all that, and even to then being a part of Black and Asian Souls Unite, and then finally starting my own podcast page on Instagram and things like that, um, we kind of get to my five golden nuggets on allyship. Um, Understanding that number one, you won't convince everyone, but to cherish the ones you do convince. And I think that puts a lot of pressure off someone who has that kind of vision, is understanding that they won't convince everybody to join in unity because people's experiences sometimes just fog them from even wanting to be a part of that. But as long as you stand on your convictions, that's all that really matters.
Right. That's an awesome
That's
first
one.
golden nugget.
First golden nugget. Second golden nugget, you won't have all the answers, but what you do have, use it wisely. That's because sometimes you feel the pressure of like, man, I'm in this leadership role. I got to know this and this and that. And you got to realize that you won't always have the answers to everything,
For sure.
which leads
And
to the third.
there's so much to unpack too. There's like years and years you have to really unpack. But sorry to interrupt. Continue with your next one.
Oh, no, no, that's cool. Which leads to the third nugget, which was always take the opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
It really is about learning. It's never taken like the position of I've reached the epitome of knowledge and I don't need to learn anything else. It's like nope. There's always going to be something to learn. Um, that's the third nugget. The fourth nugget is everyone's experience is important. You know, never never have the room to invalidate anyone's experiences or to validate your own and put down everybody else's, or vice versa, validate everyone else's and put down your own experience. You know?
Yeah. I think that's something that I've definitely dealt with the Asian American experience is thinking that my experience is not equal to other people. And for so long, I was
Mhm.
silenced and didn't think that what I cared about or my vision or my experience was, even cool until actually the Stop Asian Hate movement, where I was actually given a platform to like chat on Clubhouse and talk about what I went through. I was able to chat on panels and talk about my unique experience and what I've gone through. And it's crazy because that's just what I've gone through. It's like you look at everybody else too. Everybody's gone through a lot of different things. So I really like that point of, knowing that everybody's experience is important.
Yeah. And then finally, the last nugget, which I still hold on, I definitely hold on to all the time, is there are good and bad elements of every community. So don't make any of those experiences be the definition of a whole community. Like what you said, we kind of talked about before where your mom, where she experienced some of the that elements of the African American community.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be the defining point of the whole African American community. So likewise, there's also the customers who are like you're really nice customers, African American, but still, sadly, that's not the whole African American community, right? You have to
Right.
take the idea that each case is unique and never have the false pseudo mindset of oh this whole race is evil or oh this whole race is good. You know what I'm saying? Because like that's how sometimes you may be blindsided. You're thinking, oh, I'm cool around them because they'll never do anything. And then someone from that race may do something to you and it's like taken by shock. Or the idea that, oh, they're that race, oh, they're gonna do something to me. And they're not. You know, so it's kind of that mindset.
I think those are amazing golden nuggets to kind of ponder upon and think about and apply that to your own life. Examine your own life and look at, have you ever been in a situation where you weren't sure if your story was valid? Or are you even in a situation where you had an experience with someone of a different culture and it wasn't pleasant? Like, what are you going to do about moving forward and looking at others in a way where there's harmony and there's unity and we all understand like what else is there is just love. You look at how fathers and mothers love their kids. You look at just like what's out there. And like, I think at the core of it, there's just like love, but it's just, there's other things that stand in the way of all of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So how can people find you, Amam? And, I would say Amam is a great resource for if you're interested in learning more about the history. Obviously you can Google it, but you can always reach out to Amam and I'm sure he'd be happy to enlighten you on some of the things that he's found. So how can people find you?
Awesome. So you can always type in Capnificent. You can
Mhm.
Google Capnificent and that's me. My Instagram is rising underscore architect underscore. That's where I mostly am. And from there you'll see a link tree and it'll take you to all my creative stuff. I write stories. Um, like I said, I do music and I love architecture. And yeah, that's it. And I would say that I'm definitely not a walking encyclopedia of this type of stuff, but take what I learn and use it wisely, you know. So that's why I would say for all of us, we're pretty much on this life journey of constantly learning and evolving. So that's
Thank
where
you
we're at.
so much, Mom, for your time, for your knowledge, for your stories. And I can't wait to see some more music from you and just to see this creative side of you come out, whether that's through architecture or music. And I hope that you have an amazing day. For those of you who are listening, thank you
Awesome.
so, so much for listening to this. And I hope you got some kind of value that you could take on your day. Oh, we got one more thing that you want
Oh
to
yeah,
add?
yeah. So and then like I said, music wise, so yeah, I am on Spotify. So
Okay.
um Magnificent is on Spotify. And my latest album called the LLC drops September 19th, 2022.
Oh, coming up.
You can find it. Yeah, it's coming up pretty soon. I'm on YouTube, pretty much like I said, you can Google over, but I just want to add those few things on there.
Oh yeah, definitely check out the album drop in and follow him on Spotify and just show support for somebody who's in our community. So even though he's in North Carolina, you can show an artist some support. Thank you again so much, and we'll holla at your girl.